Welcome to Relics Radio, your favorite weekly podcast dedicated to the metal detecting and treasure hunting community. Here are your hosts, Ken from Adventures in Dirt and Tony from 5280 Adventures.
Hey everyone, I'm DK from the YouTube channel Adventures in Dirt, and I'm joined tonight by my co-host, Tony. You know him as Mr. Mr. 5280 Adventures.
Good morning.
I like that theme song. It's got a How are you, man?
There we go. I'm good. I'm still kind of under the weather.
Yeah. You've
got
had
like
that for a while.
It's a head cold, chest cold. I don't know, but I couldn't miss 2 weeks in a row. So
Yeah, well,
we're back.
You can join us.
We're
right?
back. We had to take last week off because I was really down.
Yeah. It's not the bird flu, is it? See what I did there? Chicken.
You know
bird,
what?
chicken.
It could be the bird flu. As a matter of fact, I identify as a chicken. So
that's funny. We always talk about chickens out here on this show. We always start things off with weather and chickens.
Yeah, that's right.
So, well, man, I hope you're feeling better. You know what? That you being down though, one thing you didn't miss, was putting a metal detector in your hand, and getting out swinging a little bit.
There's certain things I can't do, and then there's certain things that I have to do. I did go out. We did go out, and I was not feeling well.
You weren't,
but we
you
still
stayed
did
away
go
from
out.
everybody.
I did. And we went to a really cool location. Just scratched the surface on this, a little bit of information about it. Yeah. Literally a ghost town. We got out to the site. There's nothing there at all. No down structures, no foundations, logs, no foundations, nothing. So, we do know that the ghost town was at this location. We poked around a little bit, found some stuff that confirms we're in the right spot, but we're going to get back out there again, I think, and really get into it. There's some spots that we know we just didn't get far enough into.
Yeah, and we always talk about you and I loving to do research, and we always talk about falling down the rabbit's hole when we start doing research.
My gosh.
We're going to ask Tom about that later, too, because I want to talk to him about his research efforts. But, yeah, we fall right down the rabbit hole when we start researching stuff. And one day, I don't know what a day was this week, but I absolutely got distracted, like 110%. And I'm like, you know what else I didn't even post to you guys? I was thinking about, I'm like, you know what? There was one creek that ran through this town, and they were trying to figure out how to put a mill on it because processing their gold they had to travel so far away with wagons and stuff over these rough mountains that it cost them too much money to process the gold. So they were going to do a stamp mill somewhere there, and they needed water for it. So they had that one creek. And I'm sitting there thinking, man, there had to be a swimming hole there at some point. Where along that creek, what are they, taking baths and doing swimming and all that stuff? So I bet there's stuff at the bottom of that.
What's hilarious, I just pulled up the text from your rabbit hole. This is how the text started from Ken to the rest of us detectorists. Okay, so bear with me on this, ... And then it's this long text, pictures, overlays, colored lines on it, rivers, circles. Oh my gosh. Yeah. It took me like 20 minutes just to read your text with all the extra supporting documentation with it.
It's so funny, man. You just get like that. Like there's an old photo of this place, and it shows like it's from a hilltop, so it's looking down on the town. And so I'm like on Google Earth, like trying to find the same angle, get as low as I can in the horizon and find the same angle, and then start to screenshot it and then start, here's the slope of this hill. Here's the slope of that hill. I think I nailed it, but sometimes you start.
That's what I'm saying. We need to go back out there and search just a little bit further away. And we're going to hit it hard.
Yeah.
So it was a good time.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. It was beautiful mountains, mountain air, like the whole thing. Nice, beautiful day. We've had some great weather here, and being up in the mountains and being with people you like, and spread out. We had walkie-talkies going. We're just like, hey, I found this over here, because we were really trying to find a concentration of signs of life, and we ended up doing that.
It's a good time though. It's a good time, and I tell you, people ask, how do we find older stuff, older relics? How do we seem to get on quote, great sites and things like that? It's that research and putting boots to the ground. There's no rocket science or mystical answer to it. You just have to get out and do it. You got to put in time beforehand, and you got to put the boots on the ground when you get there. And then it just doesn't jump out to you as well. We definitely know that people have been out to this site before, and it's been hit before, and we just got to find where they haven't hit it hard. That's all.
Yeah.
And we will.
We will. There's definitely places, inches and angles, man. We're definitely going to find some stuff.
That's right. I'm
excited to get back out there at some point. Hey, who's joining us tonight? We got a lot of people jumping in. I think they're all excited for our guest tonight.
I think they're tired of listening to my voice. I know that. Bill Baker's checking in with us, and I'm just looking over at the 5280 YouTube channel. I don't even have the chat pulled up for Facebook, and I apologize for that. But Mr. Bill Hayes is over on the 5280 YouTube. Ohio Relic Hunter checking in with us. Full Metal Digger. I talked to David earlier today. He says, "Man, I'm so excited for this show. Hopefully, he's feeling better." Yeah, he was. Our guest tonight was here not too long ago, and he was under the weather. I think he had it a lot worse than I've got it tonight. So we've been looking forward to having Tom back on tonight.
Right. Absolutely. Hey, everyone. Thanks for joining us. I see you all pouring in there. Larry Stevens, Good to see you. All kinds of people, man.
Yeah, look at this. It's fantastic.
Dirk Claude, how you doing? Yeah. So, hey, let's get Tom on. We'll start chatting with him right away. Any other announcements about chickens or anything like that?
Nah, yeah, there's a lot to do about chickens. Oh my God. We started real quick. I'll just interject this, and this just kind of outlines exactly what this means. So we started doing chicken math again yesterday. We're figuring out that we're going to have to get rid of 6 of our original chickens, just 6 of them, right? So we say we have to replace those 6. So we look online of who we order them through, and in order to get free shipping, you have to order 15, or you can spend $35 for shipping. And I'm like, well, I'm not paying $35 for shipping. We're getting 15 chickens. So we both sold it to our wives of, listen, we have to get rid of some original chickens, and we're going to replace them. But don't worry, we're getting rid of some first. And we didn't tell them that we're getting rid of 6 and replacing with 15, but that's okay. That's just minor details.
Yeah.
Anyways, that's chicken math for you, right?
There you go. Lurker Troy says yard birds are nasty. Nothing to say.
Not my yard birds.
Let's bring Tom on. Let's get to chat.
Yeah. Hey, we're blessed tonight to have Tom Asham back on with us on Relics Radio. Tom, thanks for coming back, and we appreciate you giving us our time tonight.
Welcome, buddy.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So last time you're on with us, you're feeling a little under weather, man, and we put you through the ringer, and you hung in there like a champ. And then I think that eventually, I think it was just it got too much for you. So we're so happy that you're able to come back on and give us some more of your time, man, because we still had, I think we could talk to you for a number of episodes, but thanks for coming on with us. Whereabouts are you, Tom? Let's go talk about that real quick. Don't have to give us your address, but what part of the country? And we'll start there, and then we'll work our way forward again.
Yeah, Eastern North Dakota, home sweet home.
Eastern North Dakota. I was just up in South Dakota. I was up in Rapid City here recently, a few weeks ago.
That's a great area. The hills.
Yeah.
Had
to drive through that. We drove up from Colorado, and it's beautiful. Once you get up in those Black Hills, it's gorgeous. Have you done much digging around South Dakota?
A ton in eastern South Dakota, mainly Yankton, and I've had some places lined up in the hills. I just haven't, had the chance to get out there and dig. I'm so focused on Yankton. I'm always looking for I'm kind of like a first edition collector where, Yankton has the oldest bottles and still has a bottle I'm hoping to get, that cobalt blue Dakota Territory blob top soda bottle, and dug pieces of it.
Found pieces of it. Oh, that hurts.
Off in the shoulder off, and I just haven't found a whole one, but it's not lack of effort, that's for sure. So mainly I'm focused on Yankton, and I wouldn't mind getting out to Deadwood though, and digging in the hills, some ghost towns, mining camps, stuff like that.
And we're always looking for the old stuff, man. You know what I mean? Like, so when we're doing research too, it's almost like where this, this town started in 1906. That's not as interesting to us as the towns that were here, like the first, initial settlement towns. And, definitely would love to get out there at the old stuff for sure. So it sounds like you're the same way. You're looking at those old. What do you got? What are you showing us here, Tony?
Yeah, I was over on Tom's Facebook page, and I put a link over in the chat over there. Just did a search on Yankton and came up with some cool stuff. And maybe if you see something you want to chat about real quick, this is a hand lamp, huh?
Yeah,
that's pretty. Gosh,
what is it? Like it's a cranberry glass. Now, there's rumors that in order to turn the glass red, they would have to add gold into it, so it was expensive to produce.
Wow.
Someone also told me it's possible they could have used, was it copper or something, but it's definitely a solid color. It's not like a ruby flash that was used around the turn of the century where they put a red coating on clear glass to make it look red. That's the real deal. They're real cranberry glass.
Yeah,
that's
very
beautiful.
Cool. Yeah, and shaped almost like a crown. You see that shape to it? It's almost shaped like a crown. It's very, very like iridescent red cranberries. Perfect description for that. And it is gorgeous.
It's one of the coolest pieces I've dug. Cranberry glass is rare.
Yeah, it's
down in the holes.
They collect it too. Oh, hey, that was pretty cool too. We'll come back to some of those pictures.
Yeah, we'll get back to some stuff there.
So when you look at places in perspective to go dig, and for everyone that doesn't know, Tom Asham is what do you consider yourself, Tom?
Yeah. What's your resume title?
You say, hi guys, I'm Tom Asham. You got a presentation coming up. Hello everyone, my name's Tom Asham.
I put treasure hunter on the US Census.
There you go. Someday
that's official. Then that's it. That's official.
Yeah.
That is so cool,
hunter.
Man. You ever look at those old census ones?
I was just gonna say that.
Yeah, 100 years from now, they're gonna be looking back to find Tom Asham, and he's like treasure hunter. There he is. Oh, I gotta remember that. That's so cool.
That's a great title.
Yeah. But you go out digging for bottles, old relics, old properties, pits, old privies, old, like how do you focus your targets? Like there you
go.
How do you get at, I want to go, okay, this town is old. Now I got to fine tune it into where I think the bottles are. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, there's a process. I try to figure out where the original buildings were. Now, sometimes there's a nice history book of the town that goes into detail, maybe a centennial book or some kind of memory book. Sometimes they'll even have like a map showing where the buildings were. They're usually accurate. Sometimes the records can be off for whatever reason, but I'll figure out where the buildings were. And from there, I'll knock on the door, give my speech, explain what I want to do, and hope they let me dig. Hope they let me rip up their backyard.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And when you get that, say you do get that permission, are you probing back there for your spot, or, how do you come up with the spot to start digging these pits in?
Well, I'll lay out a grid. I use driveway markers, those 3 foot tall orange or yellow markers, and I'll put them one marker width apart, and then maybe 20 paces long, sometimes the entire length of the yard. And then I'll just keep moving them over. I'll leave like the corner pieces from where I started so I can see what area has been covered. And, I just get scientific with it. If you cover the yard, you're going to find it. Or you won't, but you won't have to waste your time covering the same area twice. So it's sometimes a pain gridding places like that out, but
you just can't start digging wherever. I mean, you have to have some sort of a plan,
or even just probing randomly. I mean, I'll go out and I'll hit some obvious areas where it looks like the ground had settled, or suspect areas on the property line right out the back door. But yeah, until I've been saying this for years, until you grid out and probe every few feet of that yard, you could miss something. So it's important to kind of get systematic with it.
Yeah.
Are you usually doing
show this picture here too, real quick, while you're talking?
That's right. So, oh yeah, they talk about a pit.
Right.
Wow. Yeah.
I mean, that's what I'm saying. You have to have a plan here. You're just not digging a 6-foot pit in the middle of nowhere. You actually have and I mean, look at how successful that particular hunt was.
This one was right off of the sidewalk, which is extremely unusual. This is the closest I've ever seen a pit to the sidewalk. They generally,
the sidewalk's right there.
Yeah, they generally kept it off of, the street and sidewalk because of the smell. But in this case, there wasn't a lot of room to put it because there was railroad tracks and it was just a really small lot. So they basically just put it where they could.
Look at that though. I mean, I laugh because we usually go knock on people's doors and be like, "Hey, can we
I know,
go do some metal detecting? I don't want you digging in my yard." And we're like, "We're just gonna cut a plug.
No, just a small little plug.
We're gonna fold back the hinge and we're gonna put everything back. We'll put a little sheet down. We'll fill it." And then you see a picture like that, Tom, and it's like, I'd love to be a little fly on the wall to hear you talk to some of these property owners. Like, push the history? Is that what you do? You push the history of their land and say, you guys don't know what's down there.
I push the history. I have this whole presentation. I address any concerns before they can give me an answer, because once they say no, it's no, but if you just keep talking and keep explaining, I'll sometimes name drop. I'll bring newspapers I've been in, I'll bring magazines, and I'll explain that it's, just 1 or 2 spots I'll be digging up, where I give them an idea. I give them a start to finish. I tell them it's an afternoon project for one of these pits. So they're not thinking immediately, they're thinking, oh, he's going to rip up my whole yard. He's going to be here for weeks, all summer, who knows?
Leave it.
And I'm just like, it'll be an afternoon. I put the grass off to the side. I put the dirt on tarps. I've done this, 1,800 plus times now, and it's just another day at the office type of thing. Keep reassuring them everything's going to be fine. I mentioned I'm cognizant of utility lines. I can call in locates if you want. I'm digging careful enough not to break glass though. So, it's
you've given them every reason to say yes.
Yeah, and then I tell them
you have over every overcoming objection you already have planned out.
Exactly. And
amazing. I love it.
Through all the door knocking and talking I've done with folks, I've got the most of it as far as, learn to address the common concerns. And generally folks don't mind once I've explained to them what I want to do, and they're just like, yeah, have at it, have fun. And I'll often dig areas where people know me. So it's, maybe I'll knock on someone's door and they'll be like, oh yeah, you dug my aunt's house, so there's at least some credibility. So I'm not just some strange guy that wants to dig a hole in their backyard. And that helps a lot. And I'd recommend to anyone digging for artifacts to get some publicity, get it, get it printed on paper, get in a magazine or a newspaper, or get some kind of credibility, because it helps out a lot.
Sure.
And that's just straight up. Yeah. That's straight up great advice too, for even us in the metal detecting realm. And when we're out asking permissions, think about every objection that you, your grandmother, your brother, some stranger would possibly do, and kind of have something ready and prepared. I know that. I mean, I get it. I know that when I go up and ask permissions, I'm just vomiting words almost, because I'm just like, hey, it's a hobby we do every weekend. Some people go golfing, but I go look for historical artifacts. And I'm telling you what, everything we find belongs to you. This is your land. We'll show you everything at the end, blah, blah, blah. We're super careful. We're not digging up your yard, blah, 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 blah. And you just sign it going, because they're like, actually, I think
you've got a limited window.
It's the Hoover boys that said the first thing they do is say, I'm not here to sell you anything.
Yeah, I've said that many times because
Yeah.
I'll show up with, a stack full of magazines or newspapers. And I think sometimes that helps also because then I'm not just some strange guy knocking on the door. It's like, they might think, okay, this guy is selling something, or, it's, I think it takes away that mystery of it, so they maybe think right away I'm selling something. And then, they answer the door and it's like, I'm not selling anything. It's like, oh, what's this guy doing? And then I explain,
Right. No, that's it's great.
Do you find that a lot of the homeowners are kind of they're interested in history, especially how you present it with some stories, some finds, the documentation and things like that. They're intrigued as to what is going to be there in my yard and things like that. And do you find that's how it is for most people?
Yeah, you got to pique their curiosity. That's something else I've said for a long time. You got to pique their curiosity where, it's like, if I go away, if you say no, you may never know what's buried back there.
Right.
And I show them everything. I tell them, I'll show you guys everything I find. I mentioned, I'm not getting rich off this. I'm not going to retire off of what's buried back there. And, if I do happen to find some random trunk of gold, we can work something out. I mean, we try to work with, and it's I tell them it's mainly a hobby. It's just a fun hobby. And like you said, it's like, I mentioned, it's like fishing. Some people go fishing, some people go hunting. This is my, this is my hobby.
You dig in the dirt.
You go dirt fishing. Do they always want to know what things are worth? How much money they can make off of things?
Surprisingly not. I mean, I've had folks, once I start finding stuff, I think there was one time someone even, kicked me out, or they said no more digging after this, and I was like, why? You guys seem on board. And the guy actually said, I didn't think you were going to find anything. And now I've got all these piles of artifacts out, and just because something is old doesn't mean it's valuable. I mean, look at all the rocks laying out on the ground, millions of years old. And that's another thing I explain. A lot of these bottles, they're just cool pieces. They don't hold a lot of value. If you tried to sell each one, it could take you a lifetime, trying to get a price worth, going through the trouble of selling it. And I mean, I've sold boxes of them for, just blank bottles for like $20. One time a guy was working on an art project. Another guy, I just thought they were cool, I guess, picked a few he liked, but I mentioned to the landowner, I'm interested in, less than 5% of the bottles I find, and I'll gladly tell them what they're worth. And, I mentioned how many pits I've dug, and, I'm not gonna retire off of what I find.
Yeah.
That's their main concern.
Sure.
The safety, destroying the yard, and then I'm going to walk away with something extremely valuable.
Yeah. What do you do with your blanks? What do you do with your sort of non-valuable bottles? And do you have things you do with them, or do you just recycle them, or do you cut them up, turn them into art glass? Like
I've done a lot. I've sold them by the box. A lot of the bottles from my early days where, when I was collecting, when I was a kid, I'd just grab any old bottle I'd find in like an abandoned tree line or something. And I just have it in a box. And I actually ended up recycling a lot of the modern junk once I got to know, what's common, what's this and that. I mean, I've given a bunch away. I've donated some to museums. A lot of the time they don't have room for all of it is the issue, where I'd show up with like this like tote full of like, dirty bottles and like broken dishes and stuff. But I've noticed if there is like a significant site I'm digging, like in Yankton, say like a old like governor's house or something along those lines, and I'm able to reconstruct like a water pitcher or a plate, with the provenance, they're interested in that. So I'm able to get rid of a few pieces there, but a majority of it I'll offer to the property owner. And a lot of the time they just tell me to throw it back in the pit. Like in Yankton, I've been giving a lot of the stuff to the guy at the antique store. And he's in turn been giving us dirt from some dirt piles. There was construction on his lot. And a lot of the time when I'm done digging, we'll take a lot of bottles out, or we'll compact the dirt far enough where we're short on dirt. So then it's nice. His property is in the middle of town, and we can just go take some buckets full out of this dirt pile, and then we'll bring him a tote full of bottles, and everyone's happy. But okay, so another story with the, what do I do with these finds? This happened just recently. So I cleaned out the granary. I went through all the bottles, thousands and thousands of slick blank bottles. Didn't know what to do with them. I had them sitting out in totes out in the woods, and I noticed a few of them had filled with water and froze. So I didn't want them to be destroyed. I didn't know what else to do. I've tried selling some to the antique store, tried selling them on, like, I don't know, Craigslist, Marketplace, whatever else. So we had rented an excavator to clear the woods and rip some trees out. And I thought, you know what? I'm just going to bury these. I'm going to put them back in the ground where they're safe, and maybe I'll come back one day, when they're worth something. And so I dug this huge trench with an excavator, and I must have put 5,000 plus bottles in this trench. I just covered it with dirt. I mean, they're safe down there. I'm not recycling them. They're still
the Tom Asham bottle bunker.
There you go.
My goodness.
I have a video of it, and I mean, it looks just. I mean, there's like cardboard box of them setting down in this trench, and and then I mean, it just looks like a bunch of just like a garbage pile, basically. But it's antique bottles, and of course, like I didn't bury anything with extreme historic significance, like from some like famous riverboat captain's house or something. I make sure those kind of collections stay together. Like the Fort Pembina stuff. A lot of that's on display at like a museum or, in a prominent collection where it's appreciated. But a lot of this was just the slick stuff that I brought home over the years, and I didn't know what else to do with it. And I was out of options.
Wow. You found a solution for it. That's cool.
Yeah, it is.
And I don't know, maybe I'll dig another trench and bury some more. I don't know.
100 years from now, people are going to be like, we got to find that Tom Asham property.
Yeah,
I already buried tons of bottles that are now worth thousands of dollars on his property. They're slick, but they're hundreds and hundreds and hundreds.
Yeah, and my dad was out there helping me just like haul some like totes into the trench, and my nephew was out there. He's 3, and we were joking with him like, all right, Trey, you got to remember where this is, buddy. This is your retirement. Right? You know where the gold's buried.
Oh, geez.
Well, that brings up an interesting question, though. Have you ever found a cache of anything while digging? Like, a lot of people didn't trust banks back in the day. They kind of buried some stuff, but
it seems like the perfect spot. To stash something would be the outhouse. And I've dug, I figure, over 1,800 pits. I haven't found, as far as coins go, I haven't found more than like a few like cold quarters or cold pennies. And I've had folks swing detectors around the pits, and I'm certain we have missed something good, maybe a gold coin or a gold ring, diamond ring, something, just because I don't metal detect, and nothing against metal detecting. I just don't have time. I'm so worn out by the end of the day. It's like, I've said it many times. It's like, someone asks if I metal detected. I'm like, there could be a gold brick laying in that right now, and I just want to get this filled in and go home. A lot of the time we'll be digging until dark or after dark, and
you do that in a day, man. That is just insane.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I was thinking like over a week, maybe.
Right.
I've like those pits out in Fort Pembina, those took a week from start to finish. We dug by hand, but those were insane. I mean, 12 and a half feet long, 4 feet wide, 13 and a half feet deep. It's it was a lot out there, but we do try to finish a pit the same day. Just I think about like liability issues, if the pit's left open, and sometimes the property owners, are a little sketched out about that. But if I do leave a pit open, I make sure it's covered well. And that's another reason why I don't like leaving them open, because sometimes I have to scrounge for something to cover it with. Sometimes it'll be like an old door. So maybe someone has like a piece of plywood, and then I've noticed in like Yankton, those pits are deep. Those things are, I've dug many 12-footers. So, if we have to come back, what I'll do is I'll just lower garbage cans down into the pit. Those, with the swinging plastic top. And sometimes I'll put 2 of those down there and stack them on top of each other. So if someone does happen to walk on it, they won't, fall to their death anyway.
Right.
You don't want to be responsible for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, you don't. Shoot. It's amazing to me that some of the stuff you get up to like that. Like, have you found many military items when you're going down in there?
Fort Pembina. Otherwise, otherwise I haven't. No USA Hospital Department bottles outside of Fort Pembina. No military buttons. Again, if I had metal detected some of these, there's a chance I could have found something. But I've had folks find military buttons on like stage station sites we're digging, and there was one other place I found a military button on the ground at a stage station site in Kansas. It was just on a hillside with some glass fragments, but yeah, it's not common for me to find anything like that.
Yeah. Made me think of it because Matt with Gone Digging just showed up in our chat, and he's always digging out at various soldier camps, Civil War soldier camps out in Virginia, out in Culpeper and all around Virginia and beyond, really. And they dig a lot of pits out there. They get into a charcoal pit, or they get into start seeing some bone or some charcoal, and they'll really dig you down in there where these soldiers kind of wintered for the winter. And boy, I tell you what, they come up with some cool bottles. They come up with like hair dye bottles, and they come up with like pickle bottles. I think there's like syrup bottles, of course, whiskey bottles, all kinds of stuff. But it's I always love seeing the bottles coming out of his pits and stuff. So let me ask you, when you're finding these bottles, embossed is the thing, right? Embossed bottles are it.
Yeah. Around this part of the country, you can get out east. I've dug out east where you could get free blown stuff that, could be better than, or it would bring more than anything I could find around the Midwest, or at least my part of the country. But you could get like chestnut flasks, or, early enough pits like mallet or onion bottles, shaft and globes with seals on them. So I guess those would be embossed, the sealed bottles like that. But there are some flasks that have some designs on them, maybe not like lettered embossing, that can be really good. But generally around here and a lot of the country, the embossed stuff can be desirable.
A lot of the hutch and stuff like that.
Soda bottles
Onion bottles. Have you found many onion bottles?
Never. I'm just not in an early enough part of the country. If I had done this much digging out east somewhere, I think there's a chance I could have found one. I was talking to some guys, or a guy down in where was he? Somewhere in, I think, Central America, and they're finding them down there. I know there's a guy, I think John Convalius on Facebook. He digs some of the like colonization areas, that was colonized back in the 16 or 1700s, and he'll come up with onion bottles and just early English, Dutch, German, whatever type of glass out there. But yeah, around this part of the country, it would possibly rewrite history if I found something like that of era,
Yeah. Matt with Gondig wants to know, have you ever found a pictorial or figural bottle?
Pictorial. So I've found like historic flasks with like Pikes Peak flasks, or Double Eagle flasks, with I think they call the guy on the Pikes Peak flask, I've heard him called Weary Willie.
Weary Willie, huh?
Yeah. The Eagle flasks, the Double Eagle flasks. I'll find I think I've found some Skull and Crossbones poisons before. I don't find a lot of poison bottles. As far as figurals go, I did find on Fort Pembina a cologne bottle with a bust of, I think it was General Wilhelm or something. It was a historic figure, I think, from overseas. Could have been a imported cologne bottle or something along those lines. But I've also found I think it was another cologne bottle. A lot of the toiletries, they're more prone to being figural, but it was in the shape of a shoe. That was kind of a cool find. I found a couple of those shoe bottles. Otherwise, I'd really have to think otherwise, but I guess those are the ones that come to mind.
Looking here at the Pikes Peak pictorial historical flask. Yeah.
Oh, Wonk and Willie right there. What they call him?
Weary Willie.
Weary Willie. Yeah.
Pikes Peak. What a cool bottle.
That's cool.
And this one has like an angel on it. That's pretty cool.
Oh, that's actually coming through from the other side. That's
it is
interesting. I hadn't looked at it like that before, but yeah, it kind of looks like an angel. It's an eagle on the other side. So
so it's superimposing, looking through the glass.
Yeah.
How cool is that?
Wow. Very cool. Very cool.
Oh yeah, there's the eagle.
Oh yeah. Those things are difficult to photograph because of that.
Sure.
The image coming through from the other side. When I was working on, I'm still working on it. This book that documents the earliest bottles used by companies west of the Mississippi, some states close to the Mississippi, like Minnesota. The Mississippi goes through it, so I'm just doing all of Minnesota. But anyway, in that book, I photographed a lot of flasks that you would see out on the frontier that have been found on early sites, stage station sites, fort sites, and Pikes Peak flasks, clasped hands flasks. And when I was photographing those, it was always an issue. I had to angle the light just right so that the image wouldn't be messed up.
I was just recently, I moved my mother in with me here, elderly mother, right? And we ended up bringing all of her stuff here and all that stuff. And I was going through some boxes of all of her old stuff that she had. And I opened up this one box and this smell hit me. And it was, she used to collect Avon cologne figure bottles, and they were all men's cologne. So they were all like hot rods, all these different like hot rod models, different types of hot rods and limousines and Cadillacs and all kinds of stuff. And they're vintage, but I don't know exactly how old they are. Probably not too old, right? But I'm sitting here thinking like someday these bottles, man, they're kind of cool, these bottles.
Like mid 20th century, probably into the 70s. And
I
just remember the cologne. I don't know, maybe it was like aged or something, but I just remember like smelling the cologne in those, and it wasn't the greatest smell. It's kind of
it's about knocking me out, this box. I had to put it in the garage because I was like, I can't keep that in the house. It's really, really just overwhelming.
Lurker Troy says Wild Country from Avon.
There you go. So do you usually just target home sites, or I guess when you do your research, could be anywhere, but have you ever targeted, like try to find out some old town, like where the bottle works were? And do you think, did they have like a dumping ground, or does that really not, does that really attract you?
Where, I mean, I would dig any bottling works lot. Sometimes it's difficult to figure out exactly where it was. If, the bottling works was maybe in a leased building, or, maybe the proprietor of the bottling works didn't own the property. I tried to find like the Max Bottling Works. It was Edward Homan. He owned it, and the Max bottles are more or less the holy grails of North Dakota hutches. I think there's two known.
Oh wow!
I targeted Max. I went there a few years ago and looked through all the property records, trying to figure out which lots Ed Homan owned. And I did find some lots on Main Street that he owned, and we gridded the whole thing out. We found like one newer pit. I don't even remember the age on the thing, but it was, I don't know, maybe post-Prohibition, if I remember correctly. And we didn't find anything on it. And then we dug across the road, dug the hotel, had to drill through like a driveway parking lot to dig this pit, and we found Hutchinson soda bottles, but none from Max, of all things. But back to the bottling works thing though. I dug the bottling works in Leeds, North Dakota. There were a bunch of broken Leeds soda bottles, and I don't know if I got one of them intact, maybe like a damaged one. The thing is, with the bottling works, they would have reused the bottles,
right?
Unless they were damaged. So you could get lucky. Maybe when they switched to the newer style bottles, they throw the old ones down a cistern or something. But I think generally they would have kept bottling with them. And
nope, did we lose him?
Yep.
Yeah, I think you froze, Tom. There you are. I think you're back. Okay.
Yeah. And the Cement City Bottling Works in Yankton, I ripped that apart with an excavator. Actually, it had this huge excavator dropped off. This is in town. I mean, there's like a school like 2 blocks away. And, like I'm just running this excavator, ripping this lot apart. Like I think it might have even pushed some trees down. And there was early like I don't know, farm or something out there before the bottling works, and I actually found the well for the farm, and I dug that down with the excavator and got a Dakota Territory drugstore bottle. But we found a bunch of broken hutches, a bunch of broken sodas, Crown Top sodas, Hutch soda bottles from the bottling works, the Cement City Bottling Works. And then we found, I think it was in the foundation of the bottling works when we ripped that up. There was I don't know, maybe they were thrown around the foundation or something as fill, but we got bottles from other bottling works in town damaged, and some like siphon bottles, and got a early, I think it was like a blob top soda from Iowa. So like a pre-Hutchinson bottle that got returned to the bottling works. But every single one, nearly every single bottle was damaged. And that was very discouraging because, I'm finding all these sodas. That's usually what I look for. And they were all broken. And there was a law against using competitors' bottles. There were charges I found in like newspapers where so-and-so was charged this amount for filling his competitors' bottles. And so I think folks went out of their way to break these, or sent them back maybe to the bottling works that it was supposed to be returned to. And quick story about the like earlier bottles showing up. So when I was researching for that North Dakota soda bottle book I wrote, there was a article in the Jamestown newspaper, Jamestown, North Dakota. This must have been from maybe the 1920s. And it talks about how a relic showed up at the bottling works. When they got bottles returned to them, the crates, there was a soda bottle from George Braun of Jamestown, Dakota Territory. He was the pioneer bottler, soda bottler in town. So even in the 1920s, finding one of these 1880s soda bottles was a big deal, I guess. And they said, oh yeah, we have it on display at the bottling works. So
wow,
a cool story to read that even only 40 years after that guy was bottling, someone was excited to find one of his bottles.
Wow. That's awesome. That's rare.
Yeah.
Totally rare. We have, Colorado's got some bottling works, some bottle works. And I've always wanted to try to figure out like how I looked up my local town here. I moved to a new town, so I was doing all the history research and such. And that's one of the rabbit holes I fell down one time, is the glass works that were here.
What town?
Greeley.
I don't know if I've seen any sodas from Greeley. Are you guys familiar with the Colorado sodas?
Colorado? No, I'm not familiar with them. I haven't gotten educated.
Putting all the earliest ones. I'm looking at my phone here. This book I'm working on, I photographed all the earliest Colorado sodas and beers. Basically any Colorado soda or beer made before 1885. I've got pictures.
That's early. Oh, you do?
Yes, I've got just a ton of pictures, and I'm actually going to pull up here to see if there's anything from Greeley that
you found them here, or did you found them elsewhere?
I was just photographing collections. Like I traveled the Western U.S. photographing these collections for this book, and I photographed bottles in every state. Let's see. So North Dakota down to Texas, Minnesota, Iowa, and then everything west. Minus Arizona, which I hired my photographer to photograph the bottles there from some of the most prominent collections. He was on vacation actually, and I put him to work. So he paid for his vacation, I'm sure.
Yeah, there you go. I think 1876 was the Colorado Glass Works Company, and then Golden, Colorado, Golden Glass Works in Golden, Colorado. They were 1887 around there. I think Greeley was a little bit later than that because they had a later development.
Nothing in Denver though?
Yeah, in Denver. The Colorado Glassworks, I think, was in Denver.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think they were out of
so
Denver,
that was going to be early.
1875, but
okay.
Yeah, I mean, people only started coming here like in 1850s, you know what I mean? 1860s, really. And between that and 1880s, the place just exploded with all kinds of everything that you could think of. And just trying to think like, okay, so like I did a research on the Greeley Bottle Works, and I got the guy's name somewhere. I forget his name now, but they moved locations. So I think they were leasing places. I know that Greeley also had a Coca-Cola bottling company here, but I think it was 20s or 30s or something like that. I don't think it was, early stuff, but yeah, Coca-Cola bottling company from 34, something like that. 34.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, this book I'm working on is going to have all the earliest Colorado stuff, and I've done all this research on, basically all this networking to get all this information from diggers and collectors, folks who have been digging, collecting most of their lives, it seems, and so I've been kind of compiling all that information for this book, and I've concluded that for Colorado, some of the most desirable ones, again, some of the oldest ones, but are you guys familiar with the End Looking Good ale bottle?
No.
Denver City, Colorado Territory. So Denver City CT on the thing.
Oh, wow.
Denver's misspelled, actually. Denvere. Denver City.
Right. They misspelled it. I am familiar. I heard about that.
Yep. And this thing is, there's maybe, I don't know, a dozen, maybe 15 known or something, but it's a very rare piece. It's one of the holy grails. I owned one once. I bought it for 10 grand and sold it for 15.
Good for you.
Less than a month later, to give you an idea of how desirable these things are. So
wow.
Yeah, it looks like the Greeley Bottling Manufacturing Works. So it was 1896, so a little bit later. And his name was Albert Fine. Albert Robert Fine was his name. And it was there's some old pictures and stuff. A.B. Fine, proprietor, the Greeley Bottling Manufacturing Works. So, yep, trying to find something that they may have produced. Just, I was trying to think, okay, would they put a glassworks near a river? And would they toss all the rejects over in the river? Would they dump that? But all their locations I found weren't anywhere near water and stuff. So and they're all concreted over right now. So it's not like I could go there and it's a house and I could try to find some pit. You know what I mean? So.
I did hear a story of Bottling Works cistern that was dug up. I think this was in Nebraska, and the guy found just piles and piles of these crown top soda bottles, probably straight side pieces from 1915, 1920. But I think he got some like one of a kind pieces there, and they were bottles from Bottling Works all over the area. And I guess they just thrown their competitors' bottles down the cistern. So if you ever get a chance to dig a Bottling Works cistern, I'd go for it.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, you're looking for that.
Heck yeah. Absolutely. Hey, we had some questions in the chat I just want to jump over to real quick. We had Matt from Gone Digging. Matt, welcome on to the live stream as well. Matt says, does he have something that you found multiple of, but it never gets old? You could dig them all day long. Any
Hutchinson soda bottle. I've dug the American Bottling Association hutches. They're from about 1905. They had a branch operation. So they started in Fargo, branch operation in Grand Forks and Carrington. I've found a ton of the Fargo ones over the years. I mean, I'd say close to 20 of them, but it never gets old pulling up a Hutchinson soda bottle.
Yeah.
Right. I could dig those all day long.
That's great.
I think Brandon, same answer. I think Brandon over at Adventure Archaeology, I think he's like, yeah, man, Hutchinson bottles. It's so cool. all day long. It never gets old, no matter what condition they're in, But so what's so teach me a little bit about glass. So they used to hand blow glass, and then at one point did they switch over different manufacturing techniques? Like,
it was hand blown. I want to say until around in the early 1800s, they switched to the general manufacturing process switched to mold blown bottles. So the bottles that were blown into mold, they have an applied top, the early ones. So that was probably by 1830, 1840, I'd say most of the bottles in the US were mold blown. And they switched from, applied tops to tooled tops. Right around by 1890, most of the bottles had tooled tops. And the difference was they used to apply the tops. They were blown into a mold, and then they applied the tops with separate glass. And the manufacturing process switched sometime in the 1880s. By 1890, almost all of them were tooled tops, where the glass was tooled in the mold. So they didn't apply the tops. The tops were tooled. That continued on until the Owens automatic bottle machine took over by about nearly every bottle in the US would have been fully machine made by 1920. But it started taking over in about 1910. That's when they were able to perfect it so that they could make the thin necked bottles with the automatic bottle machine. So like beer bottles and soda bottles. And then, it took over quick. I think it increased glass production many times over, being able to fully machine make these bottles.
Yeah. There's so much to know about glass and these bottles. I know that you've thrown some terminology out tonight that I'm not familiar with. And it's like, maybe you,
I know,
right? There's
so
a lot,
much
right?
to learn.
Yeah, ask away.
So what's the top you said? Did you say like a bobble top or something like that? You said?
A blob top.
Blob top. What's
blob
a blob top?
Okay,
so like a Hutchins bottle, like a Hutch?
Yeah. So the soda bottles, I don't know, the earliest ones had what collectors call blob tops, where it's just kind of like a round top. It's usually a longer neck bottle with a round top. It looks like a blob of glass on the top of it.
Yeah, bulbous, real bulbous.
Yeah, and those were popular until the Hutchinson soda bottle took over in popularity. It was patented, the design, in 1879. So by the 1880s, most of the soda bottles were Hutchinson bottles. And they still have like that kind of round blob of glass, but they have short necks on them. So those wouldn't be considered a blob top, although a lot of people identify a Hutchinson bottle as a blob top. But the blob top generally has like a longer neck on it. It wasn't made for the Hutchinson stopper. And so, the blob tops were the earlier soda bottles that were phased out sometime around 1880, in the 1880s.
Do you happen to have one close to you within arm's reach by chance?
I don't.
Okay.
I did. I don't know.
That's fine.
Reorganized my room.
I
have one downstairs. It's actually from Denver. It's a green early blob top. I think the guy was making those bottles or filling those in like the mid 1870s. Before Colorado was even a state. So it's like a Colorado territory bottle.
Yep. Wow.
Oh, very cool.
See, that interests me right there. Just the Colorado connection there. I mean, that's incredible.
It is.
Yeah.
You also mentioned straight side.
If you guys want to chat for a minute, either way is fine. I've got it downstairs. Whatever you guys want to do is fine.
Yeah. You mentioned straight side.
So the straight side. The straight side bottles, they're what I consider a straight side bottle, what a lot of collectors consider to be a straight side soda bottle would be like a pre-Art Deco soda bottle, where you get into like the 1920s, you get like the bottles started getting their own designs, like like the hobble skirt Coca-Cola bottle, the classic Coca-Cola bottle design. That would be somewhat of like an Art Deco type design, or at least a designed type, glass bottle. It didn't have a straight side anymore. And now you'll see that with like Orange Crush bottles, they started getting these patterns on them in the glass. And the straight side, it was just a plain, just straight sided bottle. Usually had like a slug plate indicating the, bottling works, where the bottle should be returned to, where it came from. And so just, straight sided crown top soda bottle. And the crown top is a pry off cap, like you still see today. like Corona beer bottles, have the pry-off caps.
Slug plate, bottom of the bottle.
The slug plate, that's on the side of it. I should have brought some bottles up here for,
That's all right. No.
for a display, kind of a informational thing. But the slug plate is just a round stamp basically on the side of the bottle, and it just says the bottler's information, the bottling works information, where it should be returned to was the main point of that. So they got their bottles back. It was, at least in the Hutchinson soda era, I was told those bottles were expensive, and that a bottler actually had to sell multiple bottles of soda to just break even on what he had into the bottle itself.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so that's why it was important to have a slug plate on it, or some way to ID where it should be returned to, and they had a deposit on them too. So that was another reason they would bring them back, and another reason why they're sometimes hard to find, because they were returned.
How much can the base of a bottle tell you about it? In other words, like I've seen some glass where, the base of the bottle's got this huge cone up inside the bottle, like a really deep well underneath the bottle. And other times they're more flat. Like when you see those, does that tell you something about the bottle?
You have to know what to look for. There's a lot of things that you could misidentify if you're not familiar with glass bottles. Like a pontil mark was left by a pontil rod. This was in earlier glass manufacturing. I'd say by about 1863, maybe by the mid 1860s, it was phased out. And what a pontil is on the bottom, it was left from this pontil rod, and that rod was stuck to the bottom of the bottle while it was still molten, so it could be turned. So they would turn the bottle with this rod and form the top. So that's how the top was formed, was by spinning this rod. And then once the top was formed, they'd break the rod off, and it would leave this mark on the bottom. It's sometimes jagged, it's sometimes rough. And so that's a pontil mark, and that can be confused with like an indented bottom with say like a wine bottle with like an indented bottom. Someone could mistake that for a pontil mark, or sometimes the Owens automatic bottle machine leaves like a rough kind of ring on it. But that would be a newer process. That would be post 1900. So it's best, if you're wondering, to just look at some identification websites. Society of Historic Archaeology, shaw.org, has a lot of information on bottles, and that's a very solid website, where it's not going to have misleading information or wrong information. There's the common, you'll see these diagrams that talk about like the seam lines on the bottles, and they're all more or less the same thing. The lower the seam line is, the older the bottle is. That's false. It can be that an old bottle has a seam line further down, but that doesn't necessarily determine the age.
That brings up a good question too. So in the metal detecting world, especially people that are like coin collectors and stuff, like mistakes are a big deal. Error coins, double stamped coins. Same in bottles, or like, are there error bottles that you're always looking for? Like, oh, that's even more valuable because it's got a double strike on it, or it's got, some kind of special base or special top.
Surprisingly, not particularly. I've found bottles that had, like maybe like a letter was off or something in the mold, but not as much as the coin world, for sure. Not even close.
Interesting.
There's like that Denver City, where Denver is misspelled. Even if it wasn't misspelled, I'm sure it would bring a similar price, just because it's, Colorado's oldest bottle. And so the Denver City.
So the misspelling doesn't really add any value to it.
Not a lot. No.
Interesting. So pristine and its shape and condition of the bottle is how.
And it could maybe in like a small group of people. And that's another thing. Bottles versus coins in general. A lot of these bottles will be regional. They'll be collected regionally. Whereas coins could pique the interest of anyone, say, across the US, because it's the United States coin, where there's, thousands, tens of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of different bottles out there, maybe more than that. And there's so much to collect that, folks just focus on their area. So, maybe there could be like an error bottle from a certain town, and, some locals get in on a bidding war for something
Right.
like that. But yeah, in general, it's not a huge deal.
Yeah, there was a question up here. I'm going to see. Let's see. Heavy Metal Detectors Kentucky would be interested in researching old bourbon bottle works in Kentucky. Don't know if they would have bought their own bottles or buy from local works. You would think Kentucky bourbon whiskey type bottles, those certainly have a following, especially in that region or that area. That would pretty much make sense.
Yeah. They would have, let's see. So, if they would have bought their own bottles or bought from a local works, I guess
It probably would depend on the distiller, the size of the distillery, I would assume.
Yeah, same with like beer bottles. I can't speak directly for whiskey bottles, but
Sure.
I know with beer bottles, sometimes these companies would get big enough where they would start their own like glass houses to produce their own bottles. But in general, the bottles would have been ordered from a glass house, could have been out of state. Around here, a lot of the bottles came from out east. There's like Pittsburgh had glass works. There was the Wisconsin glass works in Milwaukee. I'll get some bottles from there. So yeah, it's I think it would be rare to find a bottle that was made by the distillery to hold their own product.
Interesting. It's interesting. Yeah, it is interesting. I want to say welcome to Brandon with Adventure Archaeology. We were just chatting about you, bud. So let's talk about the whole market of selling bottles, right? I think there's a difference also between some of the collectible relics that people kind of in our metal detecting realm are always looking for, the collectors are purchasing and selling, to clean or not to clean. Bottles, I would say probably clean, right?
Well, there's cleaning a bottle, just standard cleaning with soap and water. You could soak it and say like, I have a bottle soaking right now in muriatic acid, where it takes away the stains, some of the deposits, rust stains. That way you don't have to get abrasive with like steel wool or something. It's the best route in my opinion, because muriatic acid is basically watered down hydrochloric acid, and that doesn't react chemically with glass. So you're not going to alter the glass itself. Now, there's a huge debate in the bottle community. If there are stains after that, if there are like stains sometimes pitting in the glass that muriatic acid and soap and water can't remove, they will tumble polish a bottle. And, it's widely accepted. You could have a, high-end, very high-end bottle and have it polished, and it could maybe even make it worth more. But a lot of these collectors like this shiny, clean example on their shelf, and I get that. I personally prefer bottles that have the patina on them. Like I said, I'll get rid of the rust deposits and all that, but to me, that kind of hazy patina adds character to it. And I guess I'm a digger, so
right,
I pull these bottles out of the ground and I see them hazy. I get that rush when I pull that bottle out of the ground. It's usually this like hazy monstrosity that's been in the ground for 100+ years. And just, it's like that's what I like. It makes me think of pulling this bottle out of the ground, or tells a story. Sometimes it could have like if it had contents in it, you'll see like the ring from the contents where it sat in the ground all those years, the position of it.
Right.
But it's, I guess, not a huge like deal breaker if a bottle's been polished. If anything, it could even increase the value if it's done right.
Yeah, I think like metal detectors like us, we like it in its natural state pretty much, maybe you brush it off a bit, clean it a little bit, maybe buttons you can treat with some little, hydrochloric or some, different techniques to kind of knock most of the dirt off and stuff. But you want the patina, you want to keep all that there.
Yeah.
And then there's, people that sell relics, collect and sell relics as antiques, like old railroad locks and railroad parts, and the nicer they can get them to be, the more value they are. But the stuff we find in the ground, I mean, you're never going to make it look like antique museum quality item anymore. But still, I know people take iron and they'll do electrolysis on the iron, and then they'll put a protectant on it, and that's good enough, and it's pretty cool because you're still preserving this old piece of history. But I just wonder what the bottle kind of market was like if leaving it en natural, just with a light cleaning, was desirable or not, But I get what you're saying. Somebody likes that nice pristine, as it was, when it was made.
Well. Someone has their lighted curio cabinet, they can see the bottle sparkle in it, and it's strange because it is one of the few categories of antique collecting where it is acceptable or even desired to polish it, to take that patina away.
I heard a quote when I first started metal detecting, talking about cleaning some of the metal detecting relics that we find and stuff, and somebody had said, it took 150 years to put that patina on there. The last thing I want to do is take all that off again.
I've said that many times.
Loving the history side of things, I like the patina, but I definitely could understand in terms of a bottle, having that pristine bottle just sparkle. But relic wise, I'm more the patina side.
And then when a bottle's been polished, you can see like the waviness of the glass, the crudity of the bubbles, and I've actually
that adds to it. That totally adds to the character of each bottle as well. So, like I said, I could understand a pristine looking, shiny bottle for sure.
Oh yeah.
Who was it? Ohio Relic Hunter a minute ago said the one thing he hates about beer bottles is that they have bottoms in them. He keeps finding out they all have bottoms in them.
Dang it.
Terrible.
The endless bottom, the bottomless beer bottle is the best.
It is totally the best. I keep finding these clear bottles, and they have this iridescence on them.
Yes.
Kind of iridescent, kind of a rainbow looking iridescence on them. Is that just like a calcium?
Yeah.
That I'm seeing?
There's, usually an exception to everything. So the rainbow iridescence, that kind of opaling, some will call it, that
opalescent,
patina that some of them get. In some cases, that can make them more valuable. Particularly the Benicia glass. I think it was the Benicia California mudflats would. There was the right minerals in it that it made the bottles turn this just beautiful rainbow color. And some folks will collect just the Benicia glass that it looks beautiful, and it could turn even a seemingly worthless, low value bottle into something valuable because of the rainbowing on it, the rainbow iridescence, opaling, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah. Bill also said, hey, Mason Merck, metal detecting. How you doing, bud? How many ball mason jars do you find on a regular basis? And do you ever keep any of them? A lot.
A lot. That's a good answer.
We never throw them back. Sometimes I'll let my buddies, keep them if someone's helping dig. And, the ball mason jars are something that people recognize. They're probably one of the most iconic pieces out there, just the ball mason jars. So I've got boxes of them. I've got just all kinds of different styles and shapes and sizes. And I like finding the Mason's patent jars, the earlier ones that have the ground lip on them. They're a shoulder seal. Some of these might be foreign terms to non-collectors, but the older ball mason jars.
And you can also kind of date them from the script as well, right? I mean, they changed script on them over time, and so you get a pretty good date on some of those.
Oh yeah, Yeah. You can peg the years down fairly well with those things, just based on the script style, the manufacturing style.
What's funny is at this ghost town, I don't even know if you had seen it, Ken, was I did dig a mason jar lid, and the porcelain insert was intact, and it was an official ball porcelain seal in it. So
Yeah, I remember you yelling across the thing, "Look, check
yeah,
it out, I got the porcelain
yeah.
seal, it's a ball." And
I
was
was
like, "Yeah, cool."
really interested in being able to clean it up a little bit and date it. We know when the ghost town really existed, but again, if you can get like a 4-year window, I mean, I just love that. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah, we always find those. We find the lids all the time, right? Metal detectors, right? But not always find the porcelain insert, and not always intact. So that's always
not
cool.
intact.
They're usually always broke in the hole, and the same in the hole, but pretty fun. Pretty fun.
Yeah.
Larry Stevens wants to know, does every old home site have some type of bottle dump that is findable?
Yes. Where
they
is
had
it?
to put them somewhere, right?
Where is it?
I guess those home sites, homesteads, seems like even the most modest families, would have had maybe a medicine bottle or something. Generally, the outhouse pits would be the surefire way. A lot of these places would have had a dump site. They could have also thrown it down like an abandoned well. Maybe a well went dry, or they got the pump well and abandoned the bucket well. On a home site, there is some kind of garbage dump there somewhere.
Mason Merck said that sometimes there was community dumps. Like if you're in a town site, basically there would be these community dumps. That's what we're at, Tony. We were on that community dump at that
Yes,
one site. So
we were.
You want to hear a crazy story? We've told this story a lot, but this other story, Tony and I had a permission to dig this, to metal detect this property. And there was this large ravine that went down to this little valley, maybe 25 feet or so, went down to this little river space, but it was all dried up. And our friend Jeff Lubert was with us. And he went down into the valley. You know where I'm going with this? He went down in the valley, and we're at the top, and we're just brand new permission. So we're just tickling around. We're trying to find something, finding stuff. And Jeff decides he's going to come up the side, the grade. He's going to come up the side of the hill, and it's steep.
It's steep, very steep.
So he's like sticking his hand shovel into the dirt and grabbing vines and pulling himself up, climbing this pretty steep incline. And he gets up right to the top, and there was a bunch of bricks like right on the edge of the ravine. And I'm like, why would they put a bunch of bricks right here? And all of a sudden he goes chink with his hand digger. He goes to put it in the dirt, and it goes chink. And he goes, that's a bottle. So he's standing there balancing on the side, hanging onto this tree with this hand while he's digging out the ground in this hand. And it was like a medicine bottle. And then he found another bottle, and then he found another bottle, and they just kept coming. And I think he had 4 or 5 of them, and it was so cool. And so all of a sudden we're like, this whole hillside is going to be bottles. And none of us had a probe with us. So like, this whole hillside is going to be bottles. And Tony and I are like, we have got to go back there and wreck that hillside. Like, that's what we're going to do. So we did. We made plans to do that. So we went back there with our little claws and all of our stuff. We're ready to tear this whole hillside apart. Do you know that we didn't find another single bottle anywhere? Downhill from that, not at the bottom, not at anything. We went like 100 feet each side. And so he found the only bottles that were there to be found.
Out of the whole side there.
Thing. The whole,
He just happened to put his probe or his hand digger right there.
We were so disappointed.
We went back. We're going to dig up the whole place. Not another one anywhere to be found. Yeah. Anyways.
It's just heartbreaking,
Yeah.
You ever? How long is it
to Copper Joe in the chat?
Joe, how you doing,
yeah, and Joe, I do need to get some contact information from you. Our previous guest, Alex Fiedel, wants to get a hold of you. So some way, whether you email me directly, find me on Facebook, just get a hold of me somehow, Joe, please.
crazy copper kids. Come on.
I know.
Finding all that copper culture out there. Yeah, I'd love to see you two get together for sure.
Yeah.
But have you ever gotten into a pit and like been how soon after you get into a pit do you know that this isn't going to be worth your time? Or do you not dig unless you're pretty sure it's going to be worth your time?
It's hit and miss. If I'm digging into a pit and all of a sudden I start pulling up plastic, that's a very good indicator that, it's a lot newer than I'm looking for. Same goes borderline with like threaded top bottles, screw top bottles, machine made screw top bottles. Those are generally newer than, those pits would be newer than what I'm looking for. Not to say it couldn't drop, the pit couldn't drop, decades, but it just isn't as likely.
I was going to ask you that. I was going to ask you, how big a span have you ever experienced in a single pit, like in timeline, decade wise?
And I guess this situation is unusual, but I did see a pit drop probably 80 years, and it was
oh man,
wow.
It was, I guess it wasn't an outhouse pit, but it was a well, and I was on a homestead. And I noticed this sunken area. I probed it. I hit something. This was in my early days of digging. I think it was sometime, I don't know, when I was in high school and junior year maybe. So started digging. I was finding like 1960s junk, and then got down a few feet, and boom, I hit like a 1905 drugstore bottle with a tooled top, embossed thing. It was a 16 ounce with a lion on it, from the Lion Drugstore, Grand Forks, North Dakota. Kept digging, was finding all these liquor jugs, these stoneware jugs, Red Wing, Western pottery stuff, and a bunch of beer bottles. I did get a quart soda bottle from Crookston, Minnesota. That was a good one. And towards the bottom of this thing, though, I think we measured it was like 30 feet deep. By the time we reached bottom, we had it shored up with like barn boards. We brought a chainsaw out there, and we were just cutting up this fallen down barn to make bracing in this well. And on the bottom, I was pulling up liquor jugs, like some Albany slipped glaze pieces, probably from the 1880s or 90s. And I pulled up towards the bottom, and I dug it to the bottom. I pulled up a Dr. J. Hostetter's stomach bitters bottle that had an applied top, so it was an 80s piece, 1880s, I'm sure. So yeah, that was the wildest span of years. Usually these pits don't span more than maybe 10 or so years, something like that, maybe 20 in an extreme situation. But
wow.
Yeah, it's and I had a pit once start with screw top bottles. I was thinking of just some modern 1930s, 40s junk pit, and turned out to be a brick-lined outhouse pit that bottomed in Dakota Territory area. I got 2 Dakota Territory soda bottles, Hutchinson soda bottles, out of the bottom of that thing. So
what made you keep digging?
Yeah,
finding stuff, and the age shifted, as we dug further. I mean, I try to dig at least a test hole to the bottom, so maybe I'll have this wide pit, but I'll make sure to at least give it the benefit of the doubt. There are cases. I was digging a well, an old hotel's well, the other day, and it had burned in 1933. The hotel burned in 1933. So this well, we started finding 1930s bottles in, and I concluded it was a well just by the shape of it. It was a bit more narrow than an outhouse pit, and we dug the thing down to like 8 feet, and well, the age didn't change, maybe a few years, but nothing that nothing that predated the fire. So I mean, I sunk a 7-foot rod down into this thing again, and I was thinking this thing's at least 15 feet deep. So if it had given any indicator that it was going to drop into something early, we would have kept going. I would have dug it down all the way to the bottom, but it just didn't seem worthwhile, so we abandoned it.
I've got I just put your link to your Facebook page again in the chat. You guys head over there and check out Tom's Facebook page. It's incredible, the stuff you post multiple times per day, history stuff, bottle stuff. One thing that I really do like is you don't shy away from putting down the location of where you found the stuff. Specifically, even the address. I think you had one like
Tom,
802 Main Street. It was like, wow, like this is specific. I did want to share one picture here that I wanted to talk about that I found really interesting. This was a lined privy pit. What can you tell us about this?
Yeah, so that was the outhouse pit for the Acme Hotel in East Grand Forks, Minnesota. It was built in 1882, I believe, and burned in 1902. So
Yeah.
I got permission from the church. They owned that vacant lot. It was in one of the busiest parts of town. There was just so much traffic going by, people kind of rubbernecking, just wondering what we're doing. And I had the newspaper out there. They did an article on us, and I think we dug 8 pits out there. And this one, I had hit some glass in. So we opened it up and I started finding bricks. I was wondering if it was like a foundation or something, because brick-lined pits up in this part of the country, I've only found one other. So, I mean, I've dug hundreds of pits up here, and this is the second brick-lined one. But as soon as I started seeing the dimensions, I'm like, wow, we're in a brick-lined pit. They don't make foundations like that. So,
yeah,
it would have just been solid bricks for a foundation. It wouldn't have had a void. So we dug it out and found stuff that dated back just before the fire, I suppose. Late 1800s, early 1900s. Got a glass spittoon out of there. That was really cool.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
That would have been really cool.
Yeah. There was some liquor bottles, some medicine bottles. All in all was a good dig. If you look close, you'll see there's kind of like lines on the
sides.
Yeah, the sides. I figured that was the divider for the like men's and women's side. That's my theory, because I'd never seen that. I've dug brick-lined pits before, like in Yankton, and I've never seen a divider like that before. But those were all in a residential setting in Yankton. This was a commercial setting, so they would have had like a men's and women's side to the outhouse.
Yeah, Lurker Troy said a modern 2-holer.
Yeah,
that's what that was.
I figure, 2-holer. It surprisingly wasn't a big pit. They must have just cleaned that thing out constantly, because a hotel like that, I read it was always full. It was always a busy place. So they must have just been cleaning out that small pit over and over the years. And
did you say how the dimensions of that were?
That one was, I don't know, maybe 2 or 3 feet by, I don't know, maybe 5 or 6 feet. So it wasn't a big pit in comparison to other hotel pits I've dug. I mean, sometimes these things are monsters. Like, I think I dug one the other day that was maybe like, I think we dug like half of it. It was like total probably 15 by 6, 15 by 8, and like 8 feet deep. We didn't measure it exactly, but it was big. It was one of the biggest pits I'd ever dug. And a lot of stuff. Notice, so there was, I mentioned the men's and women's side. You can tell what side you're on. The men's side usually has all the liquor flasks and the bottles, and then the women's side you'll get like toiletry bottles and dinnerware. There was, I suppose, a lot of the people working in the kitchen, were females, doing the cooking at the hotel and this and that. So all the broken dishes would have been thrown down the women's side.
That's interesting. Yeah,
okay, very interesting. I love that. Love that.
You ever come up with any interesting perfume bottles and stuff?
I've found some figural pieces before, but I haven't really found any perfumes that really caught my attention, just because they're usually from out of state. There was one I dug in Minto, North Dakota, that I thought had Minto on it in the glass, and it looked like a perfume, and it was broken. I think we ended up throwing the pieces back, but I might go try to dig one of those some days to get to the bottom of what it was.
Wow.
How'd you learn about excavation and safety? Like, was it just experience? I know you've been digging for a long time, man.
Live and learn.
Living and learning. Any formal training with it at all? Or
for this, I didn't go to school for it. I just you got to pay attention to the soil. I make sure I don't, if I start tunneling in, I make sure I keep some daylight above my head. I don't climb into the tunnel in case it would collapse. I've found around my part of the country, it's a really solid clay base. So I don't necessarily worry as much about a collapse, but it's always in the back of my head when I start getting deep into a pit. If I start getting around here, maybe 9+ feet, I'll still start building bracing. And, I've never had up to this point any collapse that would have been considered life-threatening. Even when we had built bracing, I've seen some collapse in and the bracing held it back, but it wasn't anything that would have necessarily buried me alive. There's parts of the country though where it is essential that you have some kind of bracing or a trench box in sandy soils. There's like in Texas, I know the pit kept collapsing, and in Minnesota, I hear the kind of sandy gravel type soil would be prone to collapsing. So you just got to stay informed, know what you're digging into, and stay safe.
Yeah. Last time you were on, one of the highlights of you being on, at least for us history nuts, is when you grabbed this musket. Do you still have it around? Is it somewhere close by you can grab that again?
Yeah, I'll grab it.
Yeah, our viewing audience loves it more than our listening audience, but it encourages you to come over here.
It was early on in the live chat that people were already asking about it from the last time that Tom was with us. But everybody wants to see it and hear the story again of exactly this incredible rifle. Not only historical, but family related, I believe, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, it was his grandfather's, but I don't know how many far back. Great grandfather, something like that.
Something like that, yeah.
We'll definitely hear it.
Yeah, they're getting a little excited with this already.
So this is my great ×6 grandfather's musket rifle that he carried in the War of 1812. So it's I don't know how well the camera picks it up, but it's R. Ashmore and Company from London. Captain Thomas Vining Topman carried this in the war. I'm named after him. Thomas Topman Asham is my name. And what's interesting is that, even more interesting, that his father's name was John Topman, and he was on the muster roll of those that engaged at Lexington and Concord the morning the Revolutionary War started.
Wow.
Extreme history to the family, and
oh my gosh,
this could be the oldest family artifact. It's I figure based on the stamping, it was made during the war, so that's significant because I'm sure the British weren't supplying the U.S. with weapons for the war. So what likely happened was this was taken off of a dead British soldier.
Goosebumps, man, again. I think I got them last time too. You said that story. Yeah.
I was going to say, you are so many thousands of miles north of us here of Colorado, and just showing that, as soon as you brought it into the camera, I got goosebumps like I rarely get. Yeah. And then hearing the story, I think is the reason why a lot of our listeners wanted to see that again. What an incredible piece.
Yeah, it's one thing seeing a relic like that, and another thing hearing a story that you've researched, but then that it's personal. That's personal. That's the ultimate for me, for sure. So I hope you treasure that thing forever, man.
Yeah, sometimes it's hard to even wrap my head around the history of it. I actually want to find the family homestead and go dig it.
Absolutely.
I know the general area where it is, but it's going to take a little research, and hopefully the records didn't burn during the Civil War or something. Who knows?
Well, I can tell you, when you do find it and you do get the permission, you want to go dig the privy, you've got two guys that I know that'll be willing to make a drive to go metal tech the area.
Yeah.
And 100% give you whatever we find, because those are the things that we're passionate about, is providing family history back to the current owners and people of that are here right now. Without a doubt. I mean, you could probably give us 6 hours notice and we would end up being there. I guarantee that.
It's in Massachusetts.
Let's go.
Oh,
I want to say
okay.
Abington, Massachusetts, but
a little bit of a longer drive, but I'm sure we'll still be there.
We'll be all right.
And I remember, my grandma wrote this family history book. She talks about the rifle in it and talks about the Topman family, and it was the old Topman family homestead. So some of her relatives, maybe her aunts or grandparents, so on, made a trip out to the old Topman family homestead This would have been back in the probably 1910s or something. And they said they walked into the house and put their hands on the rafters and reminisced about the old times or the old days. And I'm thinking, wow, this place was in disrepair in like 1910. It was, it was probably built, I'm sure, in the 1700s sometime.
I just we have a permission for my old family lands in Kansas. So there's still a foundation there, and it's all dilapidated, and it's from my great-great-grandfather's time.
Wow.
And I've never been there. So I've got permission to go. I think there's 8 acres there, and dying to go. Keep telling Tony, we got to go. Tony's got a camper, so I think we're taking a road trip sometime soon. But maybe we should invite Tom along and bring him on out to Kansas.
I'm for that.
Have him help us
can
find
double
the
team
pit.
this.
Yeah, I'd be on board with that. If you know where the house was, I'd be able to find the pit.
Absolutely. Yeah, so it was like late 1800s, I think, when they lived there and they had that home. And it's funny. It's like I finally found it on the assessor's page. They still own that land. Their name is still on it, except there's a name of somebody that pays the taxes on it year after year.
Yep.
And it's a cousin I talk to all the time. She doesn't have my last name like the owners do. My great grandfather did, but I called her. I'm like, hey, you're on the deed for that land as the taxpayer. And she goes, yeah. They died here at my mom's house, right? So when they were old, they came here and they died here. So she's just been paying the taxes, and then I took over paying the taxes. And she goes, man, it's just as much your house as it is ours, the property. So just go for it, And I was like, let's go. And anytime you get tired of paying the taxes on that, you just let me know.
That's right.
I'll take that over from you if it ever becomes a burden, But so that's definitely a place we would need to go hit soon and check it out. But someday. It's not too far from us, 10 hours or so. Not bad.
We'll get to it.
Well, Tom, listen, man, you've been a great guest. You came on, you educated us, you entertained us.
Gosh.
You made us want to become bottle diggers and come out and dig pits with you, man. It's exciting. And then when you kind of look at the totality of the things you've done, 1,800 pits. Like, even when you say that's got to blow you away.
I'm going to make a list. I'm going to try to make a list just so it helps document where I've dug for, maybe future generations who want to go digging. They won't waste their time digging something I dug up already. Yeah, I mean, that 1,800, it's a rough number, but I've kept track over the years where, each year I'm like, okay, I've dug, maybe 150 some pits this year, or, 100 pits this year. And it just kind of adds up. But I haven't made a full comprehensive list, and I'm hoping to do that and kind of document my work to some degree.
Love it. Absolutely incredible.
Yeah. Buckle Boy, real quick. Go ahead.
Yeah. No,
Buckle
I just
Boy
was going to.
Sorry, Tony.
Ken, go.
Buckle Boy wanted to know, have you ever located a pit in the middle of a plowed field? Like, have you done research? They've kind of turned it into a field. The house is gone. But there's a pit there somewhere. Have you ever done that?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. If you want it, prepare for a world of pain, but it's out there. It's out there. Trying to find it. You just have to try to locate where the house was. Sometimes you can use like an old aerial, sometimes an old map. Sometimes you can locate where the buildings were with metal detectors, find where all the nails are. But it's a lot of legwork, and there's usually a lot of ground to cover. I've covered acres. Me and some buddies gridded out a field acres and didn't find anything.
Oh, wow.
I figured the history books were wrong about where the building was because there was only one square nail found out there with a metal detector. So, that's another thing. It helps having a foundation. If you know where the foundation was, if you know where the house was, if I know where the building was, I'll find the pit if it hasn't been dug up. It's just, how bad do you want it?
Yeah. Have you gotten into using LiDAR for that type of situation where it's a field?
LiDAR, it wouldn't work in that kind of scenario because the ground's been disturbed. LiDAR basically just takes away the overgrowth, or it lets you see what the ground looks like. I guess could work maybe in a grassy field to see where the ground's been disturbed, but a plowed field, it would just show you what you see with your eye. I mean, maybe you could get a little insight, but generally I think it would just it wouldn't be worthwhile. I know a LiDAR can be very expensive. At least last I checked, I want to say it was like thousands of dollars, like bare minimum, something like that. But that would be more for like the overgrowth in a jungle or rainforest, something like that. The LiDAR would come in handy.
Sure. Nice.
Well, cool, man. Well, thanks for coming on with us. Absolutely fun talking about stuff that we don't know a lot about, but would love to learn more about. Tell them how people can find you there, Tom. I know you got your Facebook page.
I've been focusing on my Facebook. I'm actually in the process of starting a new YouTube channel where I'm in full control. I can release the kind of content I want and portray it how I want. And until then, I'll just be posting on my Facebook, just Tom Asham. Follow me, tell your friends, have them subscribe. I don't know, have them tell their friends. Share some of my posts. I'll be posting updates more about the new channel as soon as I get it figured out.
Is the new name Blobs and Slicks? No, I'm kidding.
It has a nice ring to it, but
Blobs and slobs.
Yeah, that's funny, man.
Yeah.
Well, cool. If you want to wait in the green room real quick, we'll say our goodbyes off the air. Let us finish out the show real quick. You okay with that?
Sounds good to me.
All right, Tom. Thanks,
Cool.
buddy. Nice.
Holy cow.
Nice show.
I was going to say, when I was trying to interrupt you there, what's funny is we've been doing the podcast for a while. And when people mention things and, I always throw up different tabs I'm researching, and we've just started now incorporating kind of the screen share and things like that. You should see how many tabs I have opened up right now.
I do too on my second screen over here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I think I got 15 or 16 open. Yeah, it's crazy.
I could talk to Tom all night. I do have such a interest in this area because it's something that we've slightly dabbled in.
Yeah.
But obviously there's so much information to learn about it.
There is. And I still have tons of questions for Tom.
Oh, I know. I know.
We're going to not keep him all night, but we go off air. I'm going to have to ask him some of these questions. So be prepared, Tom, like colored glass versus non-colored glass and all kinds of stuff like that. Like I got all kinds of questions, but
what a great guest, man. I'm so glad. And we're so blessed that Tom was able to come back on with us and give us a full hour and a half of his show, and we could probably go another hour and a half, and maybe down the road once he gets a new channel, get some more books released, those kind of different things, we'll definitely have Tom back on because
100%.
Wow. Yeah, love it. Absolutely incredible.
Yeah. Well, cool, man. I think you and I are taking this weekend off, right? We're not going to get together this weekend. We both got stuff to do. There's a funeral I have to go do. You got some things you need to go do, and
yeah, we'll be off this weekend, but I think maybe the following weekend we've got some stuff planned. And I tell you, keep going down that rabbit hole, man. I encourage you to do that. I tell you what, the stuff that you find just encourages me and the rest of the guys that we're all in this group chat, and we'll get out and find the good stuff. I tell you what.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
How can people find you, Tony?
Yep, I'm over on YouTube. You can find me, if you're here right now, you can find me on YouTube, 5280 Adventures. Also have Facebook, Instagram. If you guys are on Facebook, come follow me. I have posted some stuff over from Tom's Facebook as well. If you guys did not have a link in the live chat, if you follow me over on Facebook, you'll be able to find Tom over on Facebook then as well, because his stuff's incredible, inspiring, and just full of information. I absolutely love it. So come check me out. Always having videos, got some funny shorts out here recently. And you can always find our live Relics Radio stream on 5280 on Facebook, 5280 on YouTube. Appreciate all the support.
Yeah. You're putting out some great stuff over there too. I know some of your shorts lately have been absolutely cracking me up. Like they've been great. what was the one? Yeah, with Jordan Peterson. That was a really great one.
That was
really
funny.
It was really funny.
My wife asked me if I had ditched work again to go metal detecting. It was pretty funny.
Yeah,
that was a good one.
That went out. It was. There's all kinds of advice. There's all kinds of suggestions too, Tom. If you ever go watch the chat, come to the end of the show here. There's all kinds of YouTube channel name suggestions. Pooper Scooper. That's a pretty good one.
There you go. Yeah.
Blobs and slobs. That's great. All right, man.
All
let's
right.
get out of here. Everyone have yourself a great night. We're going to see you here next Thursday with another great guest. And it's going to be tough, man. He was a great guest. But yeah, we've got them all lined up. Hope to see you here next Thursday. Until then, you can find me over at Adventures in Dirt. I just put out a brand new compilation video of some really cool finds. I really encourage you to go over there and check it out. Just posted on Monday, actually on Memorial Day. So check that out at Adventures in Dirt. We'll see you all here next Thursday. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. And we'll see you then.
Thank you so much for listening to Relics Radio. We will see you back here next week for another exciting guest. Until then, get out and dig it all.